Excited to have my next guest on the program. It's Kurt Holobaugh, who will be back in action at UFC Vegas 104 March the 15th when he takes on Alexander Hernandez. Kurt, it's good to talk to you again. It's been quite some time since we've seen you fight. I think we got to go all the way back to summertime of 2024. What's the deal with the layoff, man? I know your fans wanted to see you in a little bit sooner than now.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It seems to that's kind of been like the trend for the past couple years, I fought the tough final against Austin in um shoot, like right before August.
Yep.
And then, had a good little layoff and they put me back to work in March. And then, fought Trey Ogden in March and then had a quick turnaround because I hit my managers right away and I said, hey man, I don't want to sit on this loss. I want to fight again right away. And they hit me within 2 months and said, here, this is what we got for you. So I'm like, cool. And then, right after the fight in July against Krzyzewski, I guess we kind of went back on a little layoff, and it looks like it's going to be March yet again. So, it's whatever, man. But I'm excited about it, and been putting in a lot of hard work, so I'll be ready to go.
I have to imagine though, with you being you're 38 now, am I right?
Yep.
You probably want to fight every 6 months. Like, what if you, in a perfect world, what would that look like for you?
I think a perfect world would probably be 3 fights a year. Just kind of space them out. I feel like I got kind of a plan this year. And hopefully I'm able to do the same thing I did last year. Right now we're getting this fight in March. Hopefully we get another fight in July and then maybe pick one up before the end of the year. So I think 3 fights a year is pretty good, man. I feel like I don't have a lot of miles on my body, even though I'm 38 years old, even though I've had, over 30 professional fights. I just don't think I have the wars that, really put miles on a lot of fighters' body. So, I think that I'm still able to push a hard pace and fight like I was young.
And you still look 28, right? You still got the baby face going. So I'm sure we're still going to see you around for a long time, my man. We did speak a little bit after the UD victory over Kanan. What, I guess, has life been like for you since? Anything new to update to your fans? Anything that you've kind of picked up, or everything kind of status quo?
Man, it's just I'm winning in the UFC now. I think that's the biggest thing. And it's crazy to say. I make it to the UFC when I'm 27 years old, and can't seem to, pick up those victories. And now I'm 38 years old, and here I am winning the Ultimate Fighter, winning in the UFC. So it's funny how things have come full circle for me. And it's just nothing different. It's just I'm living my life like I've did the last however many years I've been training and fighting. So nothing really different, man. It's just I'm waking up happy that I have a good home in the UFC now and that I'm in a good place.
Yeah. Living the dream, my man. Wife and kids, everyone's good. I know your wife competes. Your kids do. I just saw something that you posted on Instagram the other day. Can you talk about like any future competitions that your family might be, I guess, targeted to participate in?
Yeah, for sure. My wife, she actually just got promoted brown belt this week in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So she's promoted brown belt now, and she competes all the big IBJJF competitions, in Las Vegas, the IBJJF Worlds and all that, the nationals. So, of course, she'll be gearing up to compete some of these big competitions here soon. I got my two sons, Raiden and Zayden. They got the matches coming up here a week before I fight, March 7th, that they're going to be fighting. Both are going to be in a cage. My youngest son, my 5-year-old, he just turned 5. He's just going to be doing a jiu-jitsu match, and this will be like his fourth jiu-jitsu match in a cage. And my son Zayden, he's 14. He's going to be doing his actually third MMA fight in a cage, but like 10th fight overall inside of a cage, including like kickboxing and all that. So, yeah, man, they staying busy. They're staying working hard, and hopefully they get out there and pick up some victories the week before I get to fight.
I don't think I've ever asked you this before, but first off, I love the names, Raiden and Zayden. That's awesome. How did you come up with that?
I don't even know. So of course I have my son Zayden. He's the 14-year-old, and I don't honestly don't know where or how we got his name. But I remember when we was naming him, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I like that. It's different and it's a cool name. And then my wife has a son named Braden, so we had Zayden and Braden. And then me and her had Raiden together, so we just started thinking, what's going to be a cool name that fits in. We know we're going to get a tongue twister when we saying all these names, and so we actually named him Raiden off of Mortal Kombat, and then his middle name is Thor from the God of Thunder. So we call him Raiden Tornado. And so yeah, he's got a pretty cool little nickname, man. He's got actually a big following. He's got like 30,000 followers on TikTok, believe it or not. So he's a little popular guy.
That's awesome, man. If depending on what happens with their endeavors in the future, I automatically think of those names, and I think of like American Gladiators. They could be like the guys wielding those batons, knocking people off of whatever course they're on, man. Like that's it's cool. I absolutely love the names.
Thank you.
It as far as just like what life looks like at the Holobaugh household at night. When everyone's winding down, like what is that like? Like how hectic is it? Do you have to kind of crack the whip and calm them down? Are they always like on 10?
No, I got to crack the whip a little bit, man, because there's so much to be done around here. So we normally and I don't know. Sometimes I guess it kind of sucks because I own a gym, so by the time we're done with all the classes, man, we get home probably 8:30, sometimes 9 o'clock. So we got to rush to dinner. We got to rush the kids to eat, take a bath, and go to bed. And then sometimes they got to get out there and feed the animals. So I'm constantly, hey, eat, brush your teeth, take a bath, go to bed, get to bed. And it's sometimes it's a struggle at night because we get home a little late, but definitely got to crack that whip and get them in gear.
Talk a little bit about, I guess, camp preparing for Alexander. Obviously, we know a lot about him. He's been in the UFC for a while now, so a lot of tape to dissect. Have you been kind of drilling specific things here to prepare for him?
Nothing really specific, just kind of just trying to sharpen up all of my tools and getting better of everything or getting better at everything that I do. So uh, I'm expecting a tough fight, so I'm training as hard as I can, getting around a lot, training with a lot of different people, and around Louisiana and stuff like that. But yeah, he's got a lot of film on him. I have a lot of film on me. Sometimes I don't. I think you can only go so far with that, right? Because you can see what he does good, what he does bad, but I don't really think that means a whole bunch in the cage because once we get in there, it's a whole new fight. This fight hasn't been written yet, so um, not really training any kind of specifics for him. I'm just training to be in shape. So I feel like, my best attribute is my conditioning and just being in shape and being able to go out and push guys super hard. Um, so we'll see, man. I think we match up pretty well. We've both have quite a few mutual opponents. We both fought the same guys a couple times. So yeah, we'll see what happens, man. I'm expecting a tough fight though.
Any new training partners to help you get ready for him? Is it kind of like the same guys as usual?
No, it's the same guys as usual, man. But a lot of times, I tend to work with some guys like for some fights, and then maybe I'm not able to get back out and work with some of those guys. So I start working with other guys, and then the next fight I'm not able to get back with those guys. I feel like for this fight, I'm kind of finding my range where I'm getting a chance to work with all of these guys. A lot of guys that maybe I was training with that maybe wasn't on my team, 15 years ago that are still fighting, or still active, or still coaching. I feel like I'm getting around and I'm finding rounds with all of these guys, and I'm doing it, consecutively, a couple times a week. So it's good to kind of get around. I'm going out to gyms in Baton Rouge. I just came from a gym in Hattiesburg. I got my home gym in Franklin and Amite. I'm going to one of my coaches' gym, Jimmy Mills in Alabama. My head instructor and professor, black belt coach, Raphael. I'm going to his gym in Hammond. So man, I'm doing a lot of traveling, getting around. And when I say traveling, I mean it's not that far. Most of them, Port City and Mobile is the furthest away, and it's about 2.5 hours. Other than that, the other gyms are about an hour, hour and a half. So it's not like I'm driving super far. So, but it's been good. It's been good work.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Alexander has kind of gone back and forth once or twice from 45 to 55. Do you think that there's going to be a significant strength or size advantage in your favor for this fight?
I don't know. I don't really think so because I feel like um, we're both the type of guy that can probably fight at 45, but too small, definitely too small for 70. So, and 55, sometimes we tend to be undersized sometimes. I feel like, I've been fighting lightweight for a couple years now, but I have been a featherweight in the past, and I got a lot of featherweight fights. But I feel like, over the past 4, 5 years, I got a lot of lightweight fights, and I feel like getting a little bit older, so I'm starting to fill out my lightweight frame. So I'm starting to feel like a lightweight now. But still, and even whenever I got the call for this fight, I was around 190 pounds. So I'm still pretty. I walk around pretty big. Of course, that's not with any kind of diet. And I mean, I'm drinking beer, I'm eating good food, and I'm still training. 5 days a week. But still, um, but whenever I get into camp and I start training, that weight tends to fall off pretty easily, and shred up, and you know normally get that weight off pretty easy.
What's the weight at today?
I woke up at like 172, 173 pounds today. So, and I mean, I'm a little over a month out. So to me, I'm actually trying to stay right around that mark. So I don't want to get too low because I've tended to do that in the past. And I feel like that kind of hinders my training a little bit. So I feel like I'm big, I'm strong right now, and I'm able to, even train with a lot of big sparring partners, middleweights, stuff like, and heavy. I've trained with heavyweights too, man, and I enjoy training with all different weights and sizes in the gym. So, but sometimes, like I kind of did on the Ultimate Fighter because just the way that's kind of done and thought out. I didn't know when I would fight, so man, I was hanging around 161, 162 pounds the whole time I was there, just because I knew the situation. But my training, and I think that's why a lot of the guys like, man, Kurt fights and trains completely different. And I'm like, yeah, I was probably weak in training, didn't look very good. A lot of the guys were probably getting the best of me, and in the wrestling and stuff like that, just because I felt like I was really undersized compared to, like Roosevelt Roberts and Austin Hubbard. And me and Jason was kind of the same size because Jason's a 45er too, and a 35er. I think he made 40 for his last fight, so but now I'm trying to keep that weight on, man. I feel good, feel strong. So we'll see.
That's good, man. Well, it definitely worked out to your benefit for the Ultimate Fighter. So whatever you were doing, it worked good. One thing I was curious about, Alex left Factory X. Now he's training. I don't know what the gym name is, but like Brandon Royval and some of those guys. How do you think that could affect him positively or negatively? Like, does it just matter who he's around now versus like being at a bigger gym like Factory X where maybe you don't get as much attention?
No, man, yeah, I don't really find that a lot of that type of stuff really matters, right? Because and I've said this for a long time, man. You can go out and you can go to the very best training camp, spend thousands of dollars on the coaches and the training camp, spend thousands of dollars on your nutrition, you know, 2 a days, 3 a days, work out 7 days a week, get the best training, be in the best shape of your life. But all it takes is one mistake, and you're looking up at the lights with the referee waving his hands. So I mean, you see it all the time. I don't think that always matters. So, and for Alex, maybe this is better for him. I don't know. I guess only he does, but I don't think it really matters going into a fight. As long as I think you go through your training camp and you have a good training camp and you're healthy, you feel like you put good work in. I think that's all that matters.
What did you think of his split decision victory over Austin Hubbard, a guy you know really well? What were like the takeaways from that fight? I'm sure you had some.
Yeah, I remember watching that fight live. I was actually at some local fights. I had some guys fighting, so I was wrapping hands while I was watching it. So I didn't really get to watch it super good, but as I was watching it, I thought that Austin was picking it up, and I thought Austin was going to get the nod. And of course, now that I got matched up with Alexander, I've gone back and I've watched that fight several times, and I still, man, I think that's still one of the fights that they could have called it either way, and you probably couldn't really argue it. I think Alexander probably won the first round. Austin won the third round, and it comes down to the second round. I thought Austin was doing a good job putting a lot of pressure on Alexander. Um, but Alexander stuffed like all of like 12 of his takedowns. So, and I might wrestle a little bit, but I'm not going out there to shoot takedowns. So I'll be looking forward to maybe defending his takedowns. But It was a good fight. I think it could have went either way. I kind of still think Austin won round two, but I mean that's my opinion. But yeah, I've been watching that fight, studying a lot. I think there's a lot of things that Austin done really well, and I'm just kind of trying to, you know, see what he did well and work with that.
Where is Alexander most dangerous?
Um, I don't know. I think if I let him dictate the fight and I let him come forward, I think that's where he'd be most dangerous. But I think if I can get him on his back foot a little bit and stalk him down a little bit, put the pressure on like I normally do, I feel like I can limit it a little bit of that. I do feel like he's gonna probably wrestle a good bit, so I got to be ready for that, man. I got a good jiu-jitsu game, I got a good bottom game. If I do happen to get taken down, I'm confident that I can either work a sub off the bottom or work my way back up. But we'll see.
Alexander has a lot of decisions lately. Do you think he has an off button? And if he does, can you find it? Do you think ultimately your power might be the difference in clipping him and maybe getting a TKO?
For sure. I think everybody has an off button, and he's been TKO'd quite a few times. So I definitely think that it's possible. I just got to go out there and fight my fight. I'm a guy that goes out, fights pretty aggressively at times. I throw a lot of punches, a lot of power punches. Um, so we'll see. I do think that I'm a more my style's more of finishing fights. I don't have very many decision wins out of my 23 victories. So we'll see, but I do think he has an off button, and I'm hoping that I can find it.
For all the betters out there, Kurt, what if you had to give me an official prediction? What give me it? What round? How?
Man, I think this is gonna be. I think it's gonna be a tough fight. I think it's gonna be a dog fight. I think we're both gonna have to get out of our comfort zone a little bit and bite down on the mouthpiece. But I think if something was gonna happen, it's gonna happen later, probably late second or third round, and hopefully, it's the referee pulling me off with a TKO.
I can't wait to see you back in there, man. You have such a fan friendly style. You always bring it. Must see TV if you like combat sports. I do want to ask you a little bit about the lightweight division before we get out of here today. Islam Makhachev made short work of Renato Moicano defending his title again. Is the guy that's going to beat him and dethrone him at 155 in the UFC right now?
Um, I don't know, man. I mean, the UFC is pretty stacked. But you look at some of the stuff Makachev is doing. There he hasn't really been tested. I think Poirier might have been the one that. Well, I'll say Alexander Volkanovski's the one that really tested him the most in the first fight. But of course, I think everybody's beatable. I do not think Ilia Topuria is the one that's going to do it. To be honest with you, um, but I don't know, man. That the lightweight division is stacked. Justin Gaethje could be a guy to kind of give him some problems. With Gaethje's wrestling background, I know that didn't play out the way a lot of people thought it might would when he fought Khabib. But I think Gaethje could be a good candidate, to put a stop to it.
What about Armin? That fight was scheduled and then Armin pulled out. Do you think he could be the guy?
I really don't think so, to be honest with you, man. I was gonna take Islam all day in that one. But like I said, man, you never know. It all depends on whose night it's going to be. Whoever can get out there and pose and fight their fight. It's so hard to call these fights. Like you see every week. You know, I roll through social media and everybody has their fight picks. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody get the entire card right. There's always two or three that somebody has off. And I think the main reason is because you really can't predict some of these things. You got guys, I know they had some, the guy that beat Cody Steele last week was like a 3-1, 4-1 underdog. It's just you never know in the fight game. So yeah, man. But and that's why I think you see some guys show up and maybe they're just not feeling it that night. They have an off night, and it's happened to everybody. And I think Islam kind of had one when he fought Volkanovski the first time, and it's very possible that he could have one again. Now against who? I don't know. Hopefully, whoever gets this shot to fight Islam, hopefully they're praying for an off night because that's probably going to be the only way they get the title.
Yeah, a lot of great points. You have a pretty good relationship with Dustin Poirier, don't you?
Um, I mean, I know him. I'm not gonna say I have the best relationship with him. I don't have his phone number or anything, but I see him time to time at some of the local shows and stuff like that whenever he's down in Louisiana.
Okay. Because I was just curious, you guys being from the same area, when you look at Dustin Poirier, if he never wins that title, what do you think his legacy is going to be? Because he's clearly one of like the fan favorites. He's an all-time great, one of the best 155ers ever. But like when it's all said and done, when he's retired and he's not fighting anymore, how do you think he's going to be remembered?
Oh, 100% a legend, man. He's one of the best ever. I think he's one of the most hardest working guys, and I think that's shown. It's just you look at the times where he had the fights, man. I mean, look at the guys that he fought for the title. I mean, they're all legends. He's never lost to like a guy or never lost a title fight to a guy that's like not a legend. Honestly, I don't know if he's ever lost to anybody that's not going to go down in UFC history as, one of the best ever. So, I mean, he's only ever fought the best in the UFC and he's only ever lost to the best in the UFC. So, no, Dustin goes down no matter if he wins a title or not. He's a legend of the sport, a legend of the UFC, and definitely one of the best ever.
Can you give me your Mount Rushmore of MMA? Like if you had to pick an all-time top four, who would it be?
All weight classes.
Yeah, yeah, just all weight classes, like just
Um,
the four at the top.
Man, I think you got to go with John Jones. Got to go with George St. Pierre. Um, John Jones, George St. Pierre, Khabib. Last one might get tricky. Let's say Anderson Silva.
Okay. All great choices. Do you think by the time Islam's done, he could surpass Khabib?
Probably so. It all depends because right now, he's the one active. And everybody knows Khabib shut it down early, man. He could have kept going. He did what he thought he needed to do and retire, but for sure, Islam can pass him up. Especially with the how deep the lightweight is right now with all these guys, and if Makachev is knocking him off like he's doing, he can easily surpass Khabib, and I don't think he's far off from doing it.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens moving forward, especially if he goes up to 170 and tries to become a champion of that division as well. One last question: Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker. Give me your prediction for that one.
Solid fight, man. Dan Hooker's always a guy that I can always see myself fighting. Um, And I remember Justin Gaethje, another guy. I remember a long time ago when he was back at it was World Series, wasn't even PFL or whatever. And I remember somebody that worked for World Series always hit me up on like Twitter or X. And I might have been signed with Titan. I might have just came out the UFC, but I'm like, man, I would like to fight Justin Gaethje. I'm very glad I didn't fight Justin Gaethje back then because it'll probably kick my leg into a stands. But I'm gonna go with Gaethje, man. I've always been a big fan of Justin Gaethje, so um, I enjoy watching him fight, and I think he'll probably be able to put Dan Hooker away.
That's where I'm leaning to, my man. Kurt, always appreciate your time. Great to talk to you. Best of skill come fight night. Before we do sign off, I want to give you the floor. If there's any sponsors that you have you want to thank, or just anyone you want to plug, floor's yours.
Yeah, for sure, man. I go ahead and thank my sponsor, A Game Hydration. Appreciate all the fans, my team, all the guys that have been working with me. Grace United, Port City, UFC Gym, Siege. Appreciate you guys.